The CEO called me into his office at 4:47 p.m. on a Friday. I remember the exact time because I'd been watching the clock, waiting to leave early for once in 12 years. My name is Chen, I'm 41 years old, and I've been a software engineer at DataCore Solutions since the company had 6 employees working out of a garage in Austin. Now we had 340 employees, 3 office buildings, and a stock price that made early investors very happy. I helped build all of that. Actually, I built the thing that made all of that possible. The new CEO, Brandon Mitchell, was sitting behind the mahogany desk that used to belong to our founder Tom Harrison before he retired last year. Brandon was 34, Harvard MBA, expensive suit, the kind of guy who used words like synergy and disruption in every sentence. He'd been CEO for exactly 4 months. He looked up from his laptop when I walked in and didn't smile. That should have been my first warning. Marcus, have a seat. His voice was cold, professional, the tone you use when you're about to do something unpleasant but necessary. I sat down in the leather chair across from his desk and waited. I'd been in this office 1,000 times before when Tom ran the company. We'd sketch out ideas on the whiteboard, argue about algorithms, order pizza at midnight when we were debugging critical issues. This felt different. This felt like sitting in a principal's office. I'm going to be direct with you, Brandon said. He folded his hands on the desk like he'd practiced this moment. We're making some structural changes to the engineering department. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately. The words hit me like cold water. Eliminated. 12 years of 80-hour weeks, of building the core technology that powered everything DataCore sold, of sacrificing weekends and holidays and my marriage, all eliminated in a single sentence on a Friday afternoon. I need you to understand this isn't personal, he continued. It's a business decision. We're bringing in fresh talent, younger perspectives, new approaches to innovation. I felt something cold settling in my chest. Younger perspectives. I was 41, not ancient. I still understood technology better than anyone in this building. But I kept my voice calm and professional. What about the Genesis project? I asked. Genesis was our AI-powered data analytics platform. I'd spent 3 years developing it from scratch. It was the product that had tripled our revenue in the last 18 months. Every major client we had was using Genesis. It was the future of the entire company. Brandon's expression didn't change. The Genesis system will continue under new leadership. We're reorganizing the development team. I'm bringing in some people from my previous company who have experience with this kind of technology. Your documentation should be sufficient for the transition. My documentation. I'd written over 200,000 lines of code for Genesis. The system used proprietary algorithms I developed specifically for DataCore's needs. The machine learning models were trained on datasets I'd personally curated. The entire architecture was in my head because it was too complex to fully document. But Brandon didn't know that. Brandon had been here 4 months and probably didn't understand half of what Genesis actually did. I'll need you to turn in your badge and laptop before you leave today, he said. HR will be in touch about your final paycheck and benefits. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. That's when I understood. This wasn't a layoff. This was an execution. They were walking me out like a criminal, like someone who couldn't be trusted. After 12 years of loyalty, of building this company from nothing, I was being escorted out by security. An hour later I was standing in the parking lot holding a cardboard box with a coffee mug, a desk plant, and a framed photo of me and Tom from our series of funding celebration. My badge was deactivated. My email was already shut down. My access to every system I'd built was revoked. I sat in my car and tried to process what had just happened. That weekend I didn't leave my apartment. I ordered takeout and sat on my couch trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. Had I missed some political shift? Had I offended Brandon somehow? I called Tom Harrison on Sunday afternoon. Tom had founded DataCore in his garage 15 years ago. He'd brought me on as employee number 6 when I was fresh out of grad school. He'd been like a mentor, almost a father figure. Marcus, I'm so sorry, Tom said when he answered. His voice sounded tired. I found out this morning. Brandon didn't even tell me he was planning this. I tried to reach him but he's not returning my calls. Did he say why? I asked. Tom sighed. He told the board he's restructuring engineering to prepare for the IPO next year. He wants his own team in place. People he's worked with before. People he trusts. But I built Genesis, I said. The whole platform runs on my code. I know, Tom said quietly. And that's why this doesn't make sense to me. But I'm not CEO anymore, Marcus. I retired. I don't have the authority to reverse his decisions. We talked for another 20 minutes but it didn't change anything. Tom promised to ask around to see if he could find out what was really going on. But we both knew the truth. Brandon wanted me gone and now I was gone. Monday morning I started looking for new jobs. Tuesday I got a call from my friend Jennifer who still worked at DataCore. "Marcus," she whispered into the phone like she was hiding in a bathroom stall. "You need to hear this. Brandon held an all-hands meeting this morning." "What did he say?" "He announced a major breakthrough in AI technology. He said the company has developed a revolutionary new system that's going to change the industry." My stomach went cold. "Genesis?" "Exactly," Jennifer said. "But here's the thing. He's taking credit for it. He stood up there and talked about how he personally led the development team to create this innovation. He didn't mention your name once. He made it sound like he built it himself." I felt rage building in my chest for the first time since Friday. That system was 3 years of my life. I'd worked nights and weekends. I'd missed my anniversary, my father's birthday, my best friend's wedding, all to build Genesis. And now Brandon was standing in front of the company claiming he'd created it? "There's more," Jennifer said. "He's scheduling a press conference for Thursday. He's going to announce Genesis to the tech media. He's positioning himself as some kind of visionary innovator." I hung up and sat there staring at my laptop screen. Then I remembered something important. Something Brandon didn't know because he'd been too arrogant to ask the right questions. 4 years ago when I started developing the core framework that would become Genesis, I'd had a conversation with Tom about intellectual property. We were a small company then, bootstrapped, trying to compete with giants. Tom had told me to protect my work, to make sure that if anything ever happened to DataCore, my innovations wouldn't be lost. So I'd done something that was perfectly legal but uncommon. I'd registered the core patents for the Genesis algorithms in my own name. The licensing agreement I'd signed with DataCore gave them exclusive rights to use my technology as long as I was employed there and as long as the company continued to exist in its current form. But there was a clause that Tom and I had added as protection. If I was ever terminated without cause, or if the company underwent a change in executive leadership that fundamentally altered its mission, the exclusive license could be revoked with 90 days' notice. Brandon had fired me without cause on a Friday afternoon. And Brandon had definitely altered the company's mission. He was turning DataCore from Tom's vision of ethical AI development into whatever would maximize short-term stock prices for the IPO. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the patent documents. 3 core patents registered in my name. Marcus Chen, inventor. Licensed exclusively to DataCore Solutions under specific terms and conditions. I called my lawyer Tuesday evening. His name was Robert Kim and I'd used him when I bought my house. He specialized in intellectual property law. "Robert, I need to understand something about patent licensing," I said. I explained the situation. My firing, Brandon's press conference, the patents I held. Robert was quiet for a long moment. "Marcus, do you understand what you're sitting on?" "What do you mean?" "If you revoke that license, their entire flagship product stops being legal for them to sell. Every client contract they've signed becomes a liability. They'd be selling technology they don't have rights to use. The company could face lawsuits, penalties, potentially collapse entirely." I felt my pulse quicken. I don't want to destroy the company. There are 340 people working there. Most of them are good people who had nothing to do with this. Robert's voice became serious. "Then what do you want?" I thought about it. "I want Brandon to understand that he can't steal credit for other people's work. I want the truth to come out about who actually built Genesis. And I want to be treated with the respect I earned over 12 years of loyalty." "Here's what we're going to do," Robert said. "We're going to send a formal notice to DataCore's board of directors. We'll inform them that you're exercising your right to revoke the exclusive license due to termination without cause. We'll give them 90 days to negotiate a new arrangement. And we'll do it before Brandon's press conference on Thursday. That gives them exactly 2 days to figure out how to handle this." The letter went out by certified mail Wednesday morning. It was addressed to the entire board of directors, with copies to the company's legal department. It was professional, factual, and devastating. It explained that I held the core patents for Genesis. It cited the specific clauses in the licensing agreement that allowed me to revoke exclusivity. It noted that my termination had triggered these clauses. And it stated that unless a satisfactory resolution was reached, DataCore would lose all rights to use, sell, or profit from Genesis technology in 90 days. Thursday morning, 2 hours before Brandon's scheduled press conference, my phone started ringing. The first call was from DataCore's head of legal. "Mr. Chen, we need to discuss this matter immediately. This is highly irregular. It's also highly legal, I replied. I had my intellectual property attorney review everything before we sent the letter. The patents are valid. The licensing agreement is clear. I was terminated without cause. The clauses apply. The second call came from a board member named Patricia Walters. She'd been with the company since the Series B funding round. Marcus, she said, her voice tight with stress. We had no idea about these patents. Why didn't anyone know you held the core IP? Because Tom and I kept it quiet, I said. It was protection in case the company ever got acquired by someone who would get the technology or use it unethically. Was insurance. Well, it's creating a major problem, Patricia said. Brandon is supposed to go on stage in 90 minutes to announce Genesis as our revolutionary breakthrough. If we cancel now, the tech press will start asking questions. Maybe you should ask Brandon why he fired the person who actually built the thing he's planning to take credit for, I suggested. There was a long silence. We're calling an emergency board meeting, Patricia finally said. Can you be here in an hour? I'll be there, I said. The DataCore conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Austin. The board was already assembled when I arrived. Patricia Walters, 3 venture capital partners, Tom Harrison, who'd come out of retirement for this, and Brandon Mitchell looking like he'd swallowed glass. Marcus, Patricia began. We've reviewed your patent documentation and the licensing agreement. Everything appears to be in order legally. The question is what you want to happen here. I looked directly at Brandon. I built Genesis over 3 years. I wrote every critical algorithm. I trained every machine learning model. I debugged every failure. I sacrificed my personal life to make it work. And last Friday I was fired without explanation and escorted out by security. Then this week I watched the new CEO prepare to take public credit for my work. Brandon's face was red. I was restructuring the department. It wasn't personal. You fired the one person who actually understood how Genesis works, I said. Did you even read the technical documentation before you planned your press conference? Did you understand what you were claiming to have built? One of the board members, a venture capitalist named Chen, spoke up. Can we discuss a resolution here? What would it take for you to agree to a new licensing arrangement? I thought about this carefully with Robert's help. First, I want my job back with a formal apology and a new title. Chief Technology Officer with a seat on the executive team. Second, I want proper attribution for Genesis. Public acknowledgement that I developed the core technology. Third, I want equity. 5% of the company vested immediately. And fourth, I want a new employment contract that prevents anyone from terminating me without board approval. The room went silent. Brandon looked like he wanted to explode, but Patricia held up her hand. Those terms are acceptable, she said. We'll draft the paperwork immediately. The press conference is cancelled. We'll reschedule for next month with proper attribution to Marcus as the Genesis creator. Brandon stood up. This is ridiculous. You're letting him blackmail the company. Patricia's voice went ice cold. You fired our chief technologist without consulting the board. You plan to take credit for technology you didn't develop. You nearly destroyed this company's credibility and legal standing. You're lucky we're not firing you right now. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. I had my terms in writing. Brandon was required to send a company-wide email by end of day explaining that I'd been brought back as CTO and that I was the principal inventor of Genesis. The press announcement would be rescheduled with my name front and center. 2 weeks later I was sitting in my new office. Bigger than my old one, better view, and a title that actually reflected what I'd been doing for 12 years. Brandon avoided me in the hallways. The engineering team welcomed me back like a hero. Jennifer brought cupcakes to celebrate. Tom Harrison stopped by my office on my first day back. He was smiling, that proud mentor smile I remembered. You did it, he said. You stood up for yourself. You protected your work. I learned from you, I told him. You taught me to build things that matter and to protect what I build. He nodded. I should have put protections in place before I retired. I should have made sure Brandon understood what he was inheriting. You couldn't have known he'd do this, I said. But now everyone knows. The tech press picked up the story. Articles started appearing about the engineer who'd held patents that nearly shut down his own company. About the CEO who tried to take credit for work he didn't do. Brandon's reputation took a hit. Some board members started quietly discussing whether he was the right person to lead the company to IPO. 3 months later Brandon resigned. The official statement said he was pursuing other opportunities. Everyone knew the truth. You can't build a company on stolen valor. You can't lead engineers when you don't understand or respect what they do. Patricia Walters became interim CEO and the board started a proper search for Brandon's replacement. 6 months after that, I was in the same conference room where I'd negotiated my return. This time I was presenting the next phase of Genesis development to potential IPO investors. I walked them through the technology, the innovations, the future roadmap. When I finished, one investor asked, "So you're the one who built all this?" I smiled. "I'm the one who built the foundation. But now I have a team of brilliant engineers helping take it further." That's what real leadership looks like. The IPO happened 8 months later. DataCore went public at a valuation of $1.2 billion. My 5% equity was suddenly worth $60 million. The engineers who'd worked with me on Genesis got generous stock options. The company thrived because we built something real, something valuable, something that solved actual problems for clients. I kept the patents in my name. The new licensing agreement was ironclad and fair. As long as DataCore operated ethically and I remained CTO, they had full rights to use and develop Genesis technology. But if anything ever went wrong again, I had protection. I learned something important through all of this. Your work has value. The things you create, the innovations you develop, the hours you pour into building something meaningful, all of that has worth. And sometimes you have to stand up and demand that worth be recognized. Brandon Mitchell? Last I heard he was consulting for startups, teaching them about scaling technology companies. I wondered if he ever told them the story about the engineer whose patents he didn't know existed. I wondered if he learned anything from what happened. Probably not. Some people never learn that you can't build an empire on someone else's foundation without giving them credit. As for me, I still work late sometimes. I still debug code at midnight and sketch algorithms on whiteboards. But now I do it in an office with my name on the door and a contract that says nobody can take that away without the board's approval. And every time I look at those patent documents in my filing cabinet, I remember that protecting your work isn't paranoia. It's wisdom. Because you never know when someone will try to claim they built what you spent years creating. And when that day comes, you need to be ready to prove them wrong.